Welcome to the Ascension Football Show. I'm your host, Kieran Edwards. And today on set, we have the president of the Unified Coaches Association, Jefferson George, the newest member of the TTFA family.
You have to make sure that you, crossing your T's and dotting your I's.
What's next for Coaches Association as an entity now?
Just finishing up our program.
The newest member of the TTFA family, Jefferson George and the Unified Football Coaches Association. Pleasure to have you on set, President.
It's nice to be back, having been accepted into the TTFA. Always a pleasure.
The last time we had you on set, we didn't go into too much detail. You didn't want to let the cat out of the bag, as they say. Take us through the process of becoming a member of the TTFA, a full member of the TTFA.
All right. It was a quite interesting journey. Very exciting. It ended up being a little bit of a cliffhanger because we had to go from the AGM into the EGM concerning the expulsion of the former Coaches Association that existed and so on. And, once that constitutional issue was resolved, we were able to have, our application accepted by the TTF members, which we very, very satisfied, very pleased about. The journey was, it was an interesting one because we were able to reach out to a lot of coaching bodies, right, throughout Trinidad and Tobago, and get a feedback as to what it is that they would want from an association. I think that is important going forward, where we remain committed to representing coaches.
You mentioned the two takes, two bites of the cherry in terms of becoming a full member. Take us through that process, because after the first one, I know a couple coaches contacted me, hey, what's going on? They're not allowing the coaches to come in. What's the situation? But I think it was more formality than anything. And I think I did an interview and I told the press, I think it would, the coaches coming in to be a member, it's a given. But take us through that what was 2 weeks, 14 days?
Yes, yeah, 14 days. 14 days.
How was that
it was, again, I think as you suggested, we were confident of being accepted. From a constitutional standpoint, I believe we would have checked all the boxes. But the issue was an important one, because you had a constitutional issue which could have created a problem had the last association challenged it legally and that type of thing. And when it comes to legal framework, you have to make sure that you crossing your T's and dotting your I's, so that things don't really come back to haunt you. So I think that it was the proper thing to do in order to make sure that our entrance would be without controversy.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned this publicly, because a lot of us will say, Edwards, you're bringing this motion here, the motion might pass. It could hinder the coaches coming in, and I had to let them know we have to do the thing the right way. But I'm glad that you understood that. And it's not to say, well, hey, boy, they said, what's this trouble, boy? You want constitution, this constitution, that.
But I think it was bailed out as well by the legal mind on the nomination committee, Miss
Judy
Daniels, right, who, after getting consultation within that very meeting, also agreed with the motion. So again, I just say pretty much sort of procedural matter, but those things can come back sometimes, if not done properly, to be stumbling blocks.
It was a challenge. I know I had to go against the mighty Dongna with emotion. I think he didn't understand clearly in terms of what I was trying to say. But I'm glad that we had, and it's important to have legal minds in those type of meetings where we could have gotten a legal opinion and got the matter to.
I think some of the coaches as well were asking because they were a little bit confused when they heard about the expulsion of the coaches. They said, "What? Why did we all of that?" You know? Not understanding that. Well, no, there was an entity.
Yeah, there was an entity
that was registered and as a member, and then apparently not properly removed and so on. So I had to explain to them, no, it's not us they're talking about. We're not idiots.
They're not trying to come in. They're expelled already. No, it's not. So, well, that's what I want to get to. How the coaches feeling now to be part and have a actual say in terms of the running of the football and being a stakeholder now in the future of football in Trinidad.
Yeah, the coaches are excited. I think it brought having officially being accepted as a full member did really bring a level of legitimacy to our organization, seeing that we are now a full member. Now, the work and stuff that we would have been doing before, I think the coaches appreciate that, but now having a full access, so to speak, to the TTFA, the coaches are responding pretty well. Some who may have been still sitting on the fence. People like to see things going out. Something start and it doesn't really finish, and you can't really fault them because some people, they need the bus to start a little bit and then they will jump on. So I guess that was...
Well, you can't take off too fast because you might...
leave some behind.
So take your time, move, don't just go on and lead as they say in Trinidad and leave some of the coaches behind. What's next for Coaches Association as an entity now, being part of the TTF?
Right, that's a good question, and we... are just finishing up our program of deliverables to the coaches for the end of the year we have coming up. We want to do basic computer literacy course that would provide it to all coaches, where we'll go through the understanding the Zoom platform, being able to operate the Zoom platform, Zoom etiquette, uploading your profile, to different platforms, doing online applications, right, and so on. Now with this new, with the COVID protocols and so on, you'll find a lot of the interactions that we're having is via, e-platforms, right? So I think when we observe some of the coaches, they are not too confident in that space, right? You have some who would have been for the first time using technology like Zoom, and if we are to go with the adage that first impressions count, then sometimes for the first time you'll be meeting somebody, but it's in a virtual manner, and again, but it still carries the same weight as a personal interaction. And if we can, raise the level, raise the comfort, and have them operating in a professional manner, then they're able to, present themselves in a professional way.
Let's take a break right there. I want to get into a little more coaching issues. Right. I want to pay some bills. So when we come back from paying our bills, I think it's an impress. When we come back, we're going a little more about the women's national team head coach job. We'll talk a little more about it when we come back from break.
Pest control is a pain, but you don't have to go it alone. If you're a business that needs someone who will fix your problems point blank, go with the brand that's tested. Go with Terminix. Born almost a century ago in Memphis, Tennessee, Terminix International's mission has been to spread its innovations across the world through its integrated pest and termite management system, reducing the infestation of pests and vermin. Our Trinidad franchise neutralizes the threat of tropical insects and ensures that companies, from food production to hospitality, protect their investment and get the maximum value from our relationship. And we've been doing it well for over 20 years. Termites and pests are relentless, but they're no match for Terminix. Contact us today for a free consultation and quote, and let's introduce you to convenience. Protect your premises today. Choose a service provider that persists. Talk to Terminix.
Pests bothering you? Call Terminix at 672-5007 or 672-0042 or visit our website at terminix.co.tt for a free quote and consultation. Join our fight against pests.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions.
Hey, Ascension! Ascension! Premium quality and style make you stand out all the time. Ascension is quality for champions. Ascension fit is always right. Take your game to higher heights. Ascension got the quality for champions. Now everybody say, hey, oh, we wearing Ascension when we play. To run out on the field in style. What's the brand that we want? Ascension! 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 We wearing what we wearing is Ascension. Quality for a champion. Ascension! We wearing what we wearing is Ascension.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions. Lasso Frame Maritime Limited, the best in marina services. At our facilities, security checks ensures that all vehicles are secured. Our newly renovated bathrooms are always kept in a clean working order. Need repairs and maintenance? We have you covered. Our qualified workmen will get the job done. Boat storages, from our marina, you can easily push off for a family sailing trip. Or out fishing with the boys. Or a fun DDI experience with friends. Boat repairs, secured parking, extensive camera system, boat charters, boat rentals, down the island parties. Contact us at 1-868-634-1653. Lasso Frame Maritime Limited, the best in marina services. Life's better on a boat. Located at Magnificent Mall, number 271 Southern Main Road, McBean, Couva. Amanzi Del Cafe. Happiness begins with brew.
And we're back. Jefferson, we recently saw our women's head coach got up a day, got an offer from abroad, decided to leave our national team. Is this a normal as the head of the coaching association? What's your thoughts on something like this happening?
Yeah, that I think it came as a shock to to everybody, seeing that initially we were going into competition next month, right? So we were, just a month away from a tournament in which he would have taken the job to get us there, and for him to, ups and leave a month before, I think that is not something that, well, he definitely can't do that in the place where he's going, right? The contract that he has signed, and that is something that for us, I don't think it should be a occurrence that should be common, right?
But Jefferson, the coach, our former, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Women's head coach had no senior experience, head coach experience. We at Trinidad and Tobago gave the coach the opportunity to become a head coach for the first time.
Mm.
And this is the way we are repaid. Was it a plan of the coach from the get-go to use this as a stepping stone so I could put on my resume, head coach of a national football organization? What's your thoughts on being repaid like as a nation? Like, remember too, he's also a foreigner, so we gave a foreigner the opportunity to be a head coach for the first time with our national senior women's team.
Correct.
What's your thoughts on how that unfolds?
I thought that from the coach's perspective, well played. Yeah, if you get
kudos.
Kudos.
Yeah.
Top marks. If you get easy job, somebody gives you a whole house with everything in it, you take what you want and then leave whenever you like without paying rent. Then well done.
That has nothing to do with the coach.
Absolutely nothing, right? And again, this is an international business. People from all over the world. Our coaches go outside and work, and they are bound to a contract. And if your contract allows you, or your employers allow you after engaging you for a specific thing, because remember he was hired to take us to the qualification. Yes, so if it is that a coach is allowed to do as he please, he takes the opportunity. You can't fault the coach for that. But you mentioned an important point. He is a foreigner, and he would have come here, and something that we tend to miss in this, that is 7 months of experience that just left Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah. All right? That's 7 months of salaries. Right, I don't know what the arrangement is if we get him back that money, right? Because the way how it is, we're supposed to.
Knowing a TTFA contract, we have no money to get back. We win him $10 million soon.
We win him, Yeah, but those are the things from a logical standpoint you would ask. So for me, the coach, kudos. On the other side of that coin, you have the persons who he would have entered into the arrangement with. The nomination committee, and so on, and this responsibility falls squarely on their shoulder. You engage with someone again who has never been in this position. You gifted him an opportunity which he treated with scant courtesy, right? And he wasn't able to deliver. So again, the responsibilities for this debacle, I think, should land squarely on the shoulders of the NC.
How would all right, so being the head of the coaches, how was the feeling among the coaching fraternity for women's football at when we saw that the coach left up and left? How was the interest in terms of someone replacing the coach? How was that feeling? You had any discussions? Because I know they'll call you one. There should be Prezi. I jump open up here. You know what's going on?
Yeah, it is interesting because you could have felt the coaches were treated with disdain, local coaches, in the offering of the job initially.
And the hiring of the staff.
And the hiring of the entire staff, if you look at the staff, right? So we had, and those are things that we made, mention.
Yeah. That was public. That was public. How that went down.
In the earlies. And then, so you have, on the heel of all this person, treating the job, which, so many persons would have loved to have the opportunity with such scant courtesy. Obviously, the coaches, again, that is to really add insult to injury. So when you were treated with disdain, when the job was being handed out, the person who received the job treated the job with disdain, and the local football fraternity. So, I mean, in one way, a lot of coaches saw it pretty much the way that me as a person personally saw it, that they basically they got what they deserved in this instance.
So they had a chance to retake and get it right, and then a coach was hired. Similar to the one leaving, we got up one morning and heard new women's senior head coach, a futsal man, no experience, 11v11. Coach Connie, poor record with
the choice of his where he's expert.
Even that was saying in his realm of futsal, he did a poor job with our national team, and now being installed as the women's head coach. How did that go down now within the coaches?
Well, you mentioned we woke up to that news, but I got it the night, so I had to sleep with slight indigestion. We weren't getting that news. But again, it shockingly, I was surprised. But I again, if we are on a downward trajectory, I think something like that probably might have been should be expected, right? Because it in any other part of the world would have been scandalous, really. To have somebody who, by their own admission, had no real experience with 11 football, but you hired this person you mentioned before again, who had an opportunity to lead our futsal team. That's what his area of expertise, and didn't win a single game. So how could that be justified? For me, is beyond reason, right? You have you have a futsal coach who is again now being gifted a job for which he does not
also a foreigner as well.
Well, I get into something with that because clearly there is one factor that pays great dividend in the minds, at least, of this NC. Apparently, one of the major requirements to getting jobs is to be a foreigner, right? And it might sound as though it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but really and truly,
the facts are
there. It's there. It is there.
You
can't deny that. And again, this selection in particular with Mr. Constant, it was blatant that there is nothing else, right, that would have qualified him to take that job, but that he's not, but he's from the US, outside of Trinidad and Tobago.
He came, and this Ascension supporters, I am not making up this. This is real. Then he coached one day. and was
One session.
And was fired and was removed. Never to say fired. Was removed. What's your thought on a coach having one session and being removed? Let's be real. You appoint a coach. In the first session, you could say, well, boy, we need to fire him. 2 months. We have him as the interim head coach for 2 months. First session, and you say, no, we had to fire him. What's your thoughts on how that went down in terms of...
Yeah, and I think once the decision was made, and that's what I'm saying, if it brings back some questions as to what type of processes, what type of considerations are, looked at when hiring. Because if it is that this person, off the bat, by looking at his CV and what potentially he could bring to the table, because at the end of the day, before you hire a coach, you would go based on their records and so on, and that would give you an idea as to what they are bringing. So obviously...
Well, you remember the head of the normalization committee would have said that he spoke to him a couple of times on the phone and he's keeping contact with him. So they may be talking tactics on some of these phone calls and so, well, any team you give me, I'll play a 4-4-2. And I don't know what the phone calls could have led to for this hiring. And then... sacking after one session.
Again, from our vantage point, we would be only left to speculate, right? And I think based on how we see things going, your guess would have been as good as mine. Because...
So obviously, let's work with the facts. So obviously what you would have seen, or the head of the NC would have seen in that first session would have been contrary to the phone calls for him to be removed after that first session.
I think we go in very deep with this because if he was able to pick him based on phone calls, what did he see that changed his mind?
That's my point. So, how it came to one session.
Yeah, I don't even think it's that deep, to be honest. I don't think it's that deep. I think these there's an obvious error in judgment, right? And the gamble did not pay off, right? And that was evident off the bat, right? It should have been before he was hired, but obviously somebody needed to see that it not working.
All right, so he's hired as the interim. Well, then we'll have to go down to the contract. So he's hired as the interim coach, did one session, removed. Is he going to be paid for the 2 months? Because if I leave Trinidad and I'm in the UK and I'm there for 2 months, my first session because all they find telling them use the inserted trap instead of the outside and I learn them run massive ball or run on a corner and they say, hey, in England here we don't do that. So go back to Trinidad. Those phone calls they had with me within I don't know. So but I expect him 2 months of compensation.
Well, who knows? Maybe the phone calls were surrounding those things. What happened in the event that he didn't live up to the billing.
So do we get access as a nation? Do we get access to those?
We should, because if this was a full-time president or a full-time administration, we would be asking for answers, right? I don't see there should be a difference because we are on the normalization. They need to account because that's their...
So is the football, is the Coaches Football Association going to insist that we see, one, the contract of the former coach, and then how we terminated that arrangement? Are we going to demand those things?
The thing about it is with the contracts and the details of any sort of expenditure, all members should have access to that, right? I think that shouldn't be something that.
So using your membership hat in this instance,
we are members.
You are member.
We are members. I don't get to take the hat off, right? I don't take the hat off right now,
but as a member, you are.
No, I think that is something that should. I think that's something that should be advanced. We football and sports in general is it's a serious game, right? It has the potential of lifting a whole country, right? And likewise, it also has the potential of pulling down and causing, you know, the mood of our citizenry to be very heavy. And decisions like these obviously plays on the latter. And we think as a coaches association that accountability and transparency are two main pillars in terms of restoring the type of fan interest, right? That we have been lacking for quite some time, right? Persons have been turned off because administrators seem bent on, you know, fulfilling their own whims and fancies when they are in office. And how sad it is that we have a normalization committee, right, who've not been voted there.
Who's supposed to be here neutral?
Exactly. Nobody voted for them to be there. So the interests of Trinidad and Tobago should be sought more than any other time. Right? This is what I would be expecting.
I think most members expect
that. But now it seems as there seems to be more you know, favoritism and all types of, you know, ill dealing and so on. You know, I don't think that's and particularly in this case with the hiring of the coach, I think it left a lot of questions.
And now there's a next question. So removing the interim coach, bringing a next interim coach, former national captain, Kenwin Jones, national hero, World Cup 2006 member,
played successfully in
Europe, has a UEFA A license, no senior team experience as a head coach, no woman experience coaching, but he's a local and he was given because we're giving futsal persons and so all right.
So Kenwin is logical,
right?
So on the heel of what we were experiencing, right? Kenwin Jones is a logical choice, and from a personal and from the Coaches Association perspective, we back him. We hope that, you know, he's successful. That's our stint.
But Jefferson somehow with us, we had to go down the road of going with a foreigner, make a meal. We saw that with Terry Fenwick to now give Angus. We see now with the guy from Wales. We have
the double dip.
Now you give Kenwin. With no fanfare, and this is my concern with things. Now you have a local. You play the local. There's no fanfare like how you had the foreigners. There's no excitement behind it. It's no, let's say, all right, let's see if let's see everybody if they would take the foot off the gas with us, and let me see if we could go in a corner and hope that persons forget what happened. What's your thoughts on if these appointment, Kenwin Jones and Gussie, because they are two former national captains, not just players but captains.
Correct.
Do you think it's a situation of, all right, we give all they want now?
Give in. Well, based on what transpired, again, in both cases, it's afterthought, really, right? Angus went and he represented himself creditably at the Gold Cup and sort of, cemented his pick, so to speak, as the senior team coach. And now, again, Kenwin coming in, when he would have been appointed, he had 2 training sessions, I believe, before his first game. So, really and truly, there's no real opportunity to leave an impression. There's no opportunity to really impact these women. We saw them play the first game, and hopefully they're able to really, because after the second game, what is he going to do until the end of it? Will he be coaching? Will he be working with the team? Who will be assessing him? And these are the things that, again, looks at it in a larger picture, giving a local coach what is necessary for him to be successful, right? Because you had a foreigner who had no experience. Again, for me, Kenwin would have possibly been a better choice than Mr. James Thomas, right? But he went and left with 7 months of experience. You know, had Kenwin gotten that, he would have been today, you know, further on in his development and things like that.
I heard Jamal Shabazz made a statement when the former coach Thomas would have been appointed, in terms of saying, giving that experience to a foreigner. He thought that getting a young coach locally, giving them that opportunity. Even one of the girls, maybe one of them. It was said from, I believe Jamal Shabazz would have mentioned, if we are giving someone with no experience this job in terms of the senior women's coach, we should have looked for a local from the get-go. Look for one former players. We know Malin and they are playing now, but in the earlys, before they decided to come back and do that last dance, as we say, they could have given one of those years, one of the former stalwarts of women's game, the opportunity to come into coaching and be part of it, because they would have been there, done that in terms of the forming of an elite structure of women's football. Right. Even the Kenwin Jones now, looking back at it, you could have said, as you mentioned,
it would have been justifiable.
Kenwin coming in and giving him the opportunity to get that experience amongst women's football and them impact that knowledge he has on the women game, and see if we could. So I understand what you say when it comes to it was shocking. But
we have a lot of options. We do have a lot of good coaches as well.
My main concern is when you give a local coach, as you gave Angus some days before the World Cup, and now you give Kenwin some days before the Panama game, the 2 Panama games. What next? When we talk about local coaches and giving a fair chance.
That is again one of the concerns that we have, because you're not creating an environment for that coach to be successful. You're giving it to local coaches when the pressure is greatest, the chances of success is the slimmest, you know. But you're giving the foreigners these wide windows and providing for them quite a lot, because the last time the James Thomas spoke, which was just over a month after he quit the job, he was talking about how well he was supported and all that type of stuff. You know, he was giving glowing remarks about the job. And
is there a formula to select these coaches? We talk about it, not having the standing committees, not having the technical committee in place. The head of the normalization alluded to in the first hiring of Angus Eve, having a committee put in place that in the interim part of his appointment. But in his official appointment, it was the normalization committee had a meeting, and we thought Angus was the best man for the job, and we appoint Angus as full-time head coach for the next so much ever years and this or whatever. We continue like this and then a man calling, and because we had a questionnaire sent out by the TTFA.
Yes.
Some days before this appointment, and they said, should a coach be appointed by experience, qualifications or affiliations? Clearly, with the normalization committee, we know what the answer to that is, because this was as shocking to me as Terry Fenwick saying the team he put out is because he saw them on YouTube.
I think, and again, it continues to be a concern of ours, and I think it's important to mention that what that process would really look like. Now, if and persons, we are football fans, we have a little bit more insight, because the way how international football is run, fans are allowed access to the information that is how our club is run. So Tottenham Hotspurs, they had the firing their coach and then hiring a interim coach to finish the season, and then they would have gone through their shortlist. They had some coaches who they would have earmarked, and they came through the list and arrived at Nuno, right? Now again, that is a process. We're not asking that these be copied, wholesale, and let's do this. But there should be a logical process, and the reason for that being, one, during this time of normalization, the normalization committee does not possess the necessary acumen to select our coaches, right? Select a coach, right? There's a logical way that you would go, and it is not, and again, maybe based on the questionnaire you would see, it's not like going through a resume and saying, okay, this person has this, they have that, they have the other. We mentioned before, it has to be based on what this person has done. Sports is that. Sports is active, right? So if I'm looking at an athlete, I can sort of predict what kind of times he's going to run because I have his times, right? So I can go for 100 meters, look at somebody who's running, 11 something, and then expect them to run.
Put him in the Olympics and start beat them.
It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense. And that is why it requires now, somebody who is going to access, what can we expect to get from this coach based on what he's done. Not just looking, okay, this person has this level of qualification and that's sufficient for us, right? Because in Trinidad, right, or even in the Caribbean, where the access is slightly lower, that's something we're trying to address. Having an A license is something that is, gives you a big status. In Europe, people who never coach in their life have an A license. You understand what I'm saying? I want to mean never coach in their life, never did any high-level coaching because it's accessible to them. They can do that, right? And so for us, making it, and again, we can discuss the Kenman and how that is going to work out and this job for him as he starts his coaching career. We are, again, supporting him. The decision is a lot more logical than the ones we've seen before. And, hopefully he can build on this as he goes forward.
I want to take a break there, as you mentioned the normalization committee and your belief in terms of if they have the required tools to select coaches. I want to get a little more in depth into the normalization committee and your thoughts on the normalization committee when we come back from break.
The situation we have here is that these characters, and I refer to them as pests, right? What they are doing is destroying our country, but not on my watch. No street, no turf, no block shall belong to these cockroaches, right? It's no longer business as usual. Happy hour is over. If they don't fear God, at least they will fear Terminix.
Have you considered how your methods could impact on pests across the country?
I find we look after the rights of pests as opposed to the rights of the 1.3 million law-abiding citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. I wonder if Roach Ladden's son come here for the carnival, if you'll interview him, eh?
But how can you defend one shot, one kill?
What? You want me to throw a pillow at him?
I didn't say that.
No, well, if a roach jumps in front of you now, what will you do?
Run.
Oh, Jesus, Lord Father.
Pests bothering you? Call Terminix at 672-5007 or 672-0042 or visit our website at terminix.co.tt for a free quote and consultation. Join our fight against pests.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions.
Ascension! Ascension! Premium quality and style make you stand out all the time. Ascension is quality for champions. Ascension fit is always right. Take your game to higher heights. Ascension got the quality for champions. So everybody say, hey, oh. We wearing Ascension when we play. To run out on the field in style. What's the brand that we want? Ascension! 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 We wearing what we wearing is Ascension. Quality for a champion. Ascension.
for champions.
Amante Del Cafe is located at Magnificent Mall, number 271 Southern Main Road, McBean, Couva. Amante Del Cafe. Happiness begins with brew.
Lasso Frame Maritime Limited, the best in marina services. Our facilities, security checks ensures that all vehicles are secured. Our newly renovated bathrooms are always kept in a clean working order. Need repairs and maintenance? We have you covered. Our qualified workmen will get the job done. Boat storages, from our marina, you can easily push off for a family sailing trip. Or out fishing with the boys. A fun DDI experience with friends. Boat repairs, secured parking, extensive camera system, boat charters, boat rentals, down the island parties. Contact us at 1-868-634-1653. Lasso Frame Maritime Limited, the best in marina services. Life's better on a boat.
And we're back. Jefferson, before the break, we spoke about the normalization committee and how they hire coaches. The normal practice of hiring head coaches is that you will advertise the position. Whichever organization, be the normalization committee, the TTFA, would, if there's no technical committee, because the technical committee would comprise of persons with the ability to then interview and score. If there's no technical committee, you then outsource that requirement. There are umpteen companies in Trinidad and Tobago that does that in terms of doing the interviews and scoring persons and whatnot, and then referring that list back to the normalization committee or the TTFA if it's needed, if the TTFA executive is there. Those things were never done. How serious is that, and how are we looking upon the normalization for not doing these things and just hiring coaches as they feel?
Yeah. It's a very serious situation. Now, when you look at the TTFA, the structure of the TTFA and its purpose, this body belongs to Trinidad and Tobago. All right, so they have monies coming in from FIFA. Before times they got money from the government, and if you are having an entity that relies on public funding and so on, you need to have those levels of transparency, which we are not seeing at this moment. As I say, a private club or your own entity is a different matter. But it is very important to have a process that the public, people who are looking in from the outside, can see that a logical and fair process has taken place, and the decision that is arrived at is not in any way, tainted by any built-in bias in the system, or the nomination committee likes this person, and that way it continues to give motivation to the coaches who would therefore apply for the job, believing that a chance is being given for somebody who apply to get the job.
What's the level of what's the morale amongst coaches currently after the same coaches being hired because of a phone call, and in terms of working with the TTFA still?
The morale is pretty low, right? And I think that is obvious. Certain coaches would have stated, their displeasure publicly. We wouldn't go over those, but it's really something that causes a coach who is interested in this position to wonder what will it take for them to have a chance. Now, we're not talking about getting the job, but at least for them to be considered, for a local job, particularly when they look at, in the last 2 instances with the national women's team, that persons were hired who we have people here who are more and better suited for the job. Those are the things that create within, a great amount of confusion and conflict within the minds of the coaches.
The normalization is here. Mandate from FIFA. I don't think we never thought that the kind of coaches would have spent so much time in terms of hiring of coaches and who you hire and who you didn't hire. You didn't expect them to be caught up with a unified league in terms of how local football would be played, and who would work together and where again funding from, and all these different things. Their mandate. Do you feel the normalization committee would fulfill their mandate by the allotted time they have?
Well, before we get to the mandate, we could go back just in the aftermath of this, the real sort of messy process, or lack thereof, for the women's team. One of the members would have reached out, and again, thankfully, to have discussions concerning the setup of a technical committee finally. So again, that is one step in the right direction. We are going to continue to monitor that and make sure that, and again, this persons may get the impression that it is somewhat personal when it comes to the Coaches Association, and we want to make it clear this is not a personal issue. We want to make sure that things are done in a manner where the coaches' interests are sought, all right? And the last few appointments weren't done in that way, and again, you say it leaves quite a demoralizing effect on the coaches. Right. So from there, we could get into whether or not they are going to fulfill their mandate. At this point, with all honesty, I don't believe they have shown enough to convince anybody that they would successfully fulfill their required mandate.
I don't want to skim past what you mentioned in the early part of your answer to the question. The normalization committee is going to install, or in the process of installing, a technical committee.
Yes.
So this means that the process of revising and looking at all these standing committees, or maybe just the technical committee, is over, and they're now,
well,
it's now okay now for them to
yeah, good question, but where this is concerned, I am only aware of the technical committee.
Well, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see, because I heard of this maybe a year ago,
right,
that they would come with a technical committee. Some sort of committee was mentioned.
Ad hoc committee.
It was disbanded
Yeah.
maybe after the first statement of them, just saying that they were there.
Correct.
And then we saw nothing of that committee again. So we wait and see. We wait and see. And you do not believe that they would fulfill that.
What I'm saying, I don't think we have, based on what we have seen.
Facts.
Based on what we have seen, I don't think there's any there's
emotion in this.
Yeah, I don't think there's any evidence that shows that, okay, yes, they are going to be able
so
to
if they do, you would be surprised again. They'll
I would-
surprise you
yeah,
once again. So
in a good way this time.
With that, on the backdrops of that, I want to ask you, how do you rate the normalization committee handling of their mandate thus far? 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. Again, not range.
Yeah, the score sheet is a decent score sheet.
Hopefully they could use these kind of score sheets to hire a coach if they want. They could always reach out to Ascension and get some score sheets.
Yeah, I think simply put it, in terms of the Constitution, right, which is one of the mandates, right, addressing that issue, and also putting a financial plan in place. I think our honest score would be somewhere in the region of 1.5.
You surprised me. You surprised me as well. You almost had me speechless for 1.5 seconds. Well, your score is your score. I think persons, when you look at it in the manner you did, I think it's a fair score. Persons would have been having discussions about if the normalization should continue, if they do not fulfill their mandate of the 2 years required. It's not, I don't think it's membership's decision to give them time or not to give them time. But it's the membership to, as you would have just scored them in terms of the months gone thus far, to score them for the period in terms of, do you think the head of the normalization should remain if his mandate, he didn't fulfill his mandate as the head of that committee?
Well, I don't see any justification for leaving chairman in place if he wasn't able to complete the mandate. Now, there is completing the mandate and there is addressing it. My issue is there is no evidence that it has been addressed. There is no tangible evidence of them making progress on either of those fronts.
So you would be comfortable if, let's say, early March 2022, the normalization holds a press conference and they address every point. Well, this is the situation with the debt repayment. This is the situation with the statutes. This is the situation with the day-to-day football. But there is not one thing saying this is what we did and it's completed. You would give him a pass?
No, there's no pass. No, there's no pass. No, and again, we have been on pause, literally, for at that time, if you were saying this is the case, for 2 years, right? The things that they were mandated to do, they weren't able to do that. The things that a normal running organization would have been able to do, they didn't do that either. Right, we had we had, of course, we just mentioned the debacle of the women's football. You had the youth tournament for boys and girls, which was played earlier this year, that we didn't participate in at all. Right? You had no other teams other than
Jefferson,
your men's team playing.
You answered my next question. This is what I'm going to ask you. When you look at the normalization committee, I wanted to give them a couple of things they did well and a couple of things that they really dropped the ball with. But you sort of rattle off things that they dropped the ball with and needed to give us some well before you continue going down there, because it sounds like
we'll use the sandwich.
Yeah, because I see you counting on your fingers and you're looking down at your toes to see if you can give us something that did.
All right, things that they did well. What could I?
And there are not 4 or 5 things that's jumping off at you.
We have. Let's. I wanna say the kit deal for them, and we only go down that road. What have they done well? Could we take a break now?
After this, we go into the last hot seat, but this seems like to be the hottest seat in terms of what we must have.
I wonder.
We must have a few things they did well.
What would they have done? Let's state the Gold Cup, organizing the Gold Cup. I think the players got their funds belatedly, I believe. So, and that again, I believe something came out stating that they got paid, and one of the players actually rebuffed that. But so let's call it the Gold Cup, because the Gold Cup for us, I think, is one of the things that was positive, right? That came out. Let's say the Gold Cup, the appointment of Angus, right? Yeah, the appointment of Angus Eve, the payment of the coaches last year, right? And let me state that because in terms of the youth football, I can't recall the last time that within a calendar year, all the coaches were paid all their funds. So we have some things there. Yeah, it took me a little time to get going, but there are some.
And we came up with a solid tree.
Solid.
Those, I'm scared to actually the things that they think they drop the ball. But that's funny. This is TV.
Yeah.
Take your time. Don't rush. Give me some things that they think they drop the ball.
I think, well, as we were mentioning before, I think administratively, that is one of the things that you would believe while we are under normalization that they use to get right, because then this would serve as a model going into, somebody who would be elected there, and they would be sort of obliged to follow this blueprint that a solid FIFA normalization committee would have left.
And then too, a FIFA rep could always come and point back to.
This is what we expect. This is what we expect. In this case, you have a situation where we are 19 months into their tenure, and there are no standing committees, not a single standing committee in place. I think that's one of the biggest ways in which they have dropped the ball, because that is administrative. This is not something that calls for any huge budget. It doesn't call for any huge sense of expertise in that area, right? Because you have committees that are financial, you have committees that deal with fundraising. These are things for me. And again, when you have a normalization committee in place, I think the hope and the what people who are looking from the outside would have expected is that you have an opportunity to lay down some real solid structures, right? Even from an administrative standpoint, and that we have not been able to realize in this normalization committee.
Jefferson, I'm going to take you off this hot seat and put you onto the La Soufrière hot seat. You've been on the hot seat, the La Soufrière Marina hot seat already in the past, in terms of picking your all-time best Trinidad 11. being the head of the coaches, unified coaches of Trinidad and Tobago, I want you to pick your all-time 10 coaches of Trinidad and Tobago. Youth and senior, because I know you've been a part of a youth team and whatnot. So I don't want to take away the youth from you. But the first 7 you could say in any order. So there's 7 coaches put in.
Right.
The top 3 though, I need you to give me from the 3rd, 2nd best coach ever, Trinidad and Tobago. And you can get some stick for this, but I need to put you on the hot seat.
This is cool. But all right. Let's go. I'll go with Dick Furlong, Jimmy Blanche, Jamal Shabazz.
Jamal made the list.
Yeah, I didn't make sure your fingers. All right. Sean Cooper.
Young coach.
Angus Eve.
5. So Angus is not in that top 3. So remember, coaches, if your name call here,
Yeah.
you're in the mix. You're in the mix.
All right.
Give me 2 more from this first 7, and then give me the cream of the crop.
I'd go with so many okay, against each other. All right, so let's go with I'll go with Dr. Henderson, Alvin Henderson. I'll go with Edgar Vidal.
That's your 7 in
right.
any order. Give
Right,
me
yeah,
a top. Give me a top 3.
Let's see if I get it that way. My top 3. Bertil Sinclair.
In 3. What is in 3?
Oh, these going in order?
Yeah, these going in order. I can't get away from this one. This going in order. Yeah, this going in order.
I'll go with Stephen Hart.
In 3.
Bertil Sinclair.
In 2.
Gally Cummins.
Gally
in 1.
In 1.
Yeah.
So Leo Ben Haka is out of your.
Well, he's not local.
Oh,
yeah. So this was local coaches.
Okay.
I give. You know, so,
you dance out of that one. I think that's a good top 3.
Yeah.
I think Gally,
for
most persons, would be the top coach ever.
Bertil,
I think Gally and Bertil.
Yeah, Gally and Bertil is close, you know. Yeah.
Men like Ron Laffey would have niceness, would have an issue with nothing.
Yeah, but they have a lot of coaches. No, we have a lot of coaches too, you know, and that's the good thing about it, you know. Again,
Derek King didn't make the lineup.
Derek King is in the
Derek King is 7?
Yeah,
Okay. I'm just trying to make me a little mischief there.
No, you gotta be in it. Derek gotta be in it. A young coach, Derek King is one of the top coaches. Again, it's a pleasure for me to to be able to work with
Terry Fenwick
of Terry Fenwick. Local.
Oh, I know there's.
He's a local?
No, I don't know. There's 1 minute they're trying to pay him. They're like,
all right, now you go local. Yeah. Play more local, man. You know. Yeah, no, it's good. And again, when we have things like these, it shows how many coaches we do have. And again, there are a lot in this list that could be easily added.
Yeah.
I think the top three is sort of fixed, but in that 7, there are a lot of coaches who can get there. Terry Moore,
defense force with
Hudson Charles,
would argue for a couple of their coaches.
Russ Russell,
senior, would argue for a couple of coaches in
well, I was saying, next time I'll write it down. So,
No, that's why I know that some of your coaches would have passed through.
Yeah, Desmond Bailey, you know, these are top guys. You know, Kendall Crawford, you know, the late Isa Mohammed. Yeah.
So it's one I had to put in the hot seat.
Yeah.
So it was
Hannibal Naja.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. So
it's
Lincoln Phillips.
Lincoln Phillips.
We still mention honorary mentions.
Then we can action have a couple of coaches too.
Of course, Reno Carrington.
Span.
Yeah. Leroy Span.
Would have been an instrumental one.
Beard. Goodwin Beard. Yeah.
So
John Stedman.
Yeah. So
you know?
Yeah, listen to it. You can expect some calls. You can expect some calls.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
But it was a pleasure having you on set.
Always, man.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap on the Ascension Football Show. Remember to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and at our website at theascensiontournament.com.